Good morning to you all. This is Mr. Rao. I cordially invite you all for one more interactive session of these human health and diseases. In this chapter, in the previous class, I do start explaining about amoebiasis, one of the most important disease. So there we studied detailedly about name of the causative organism, then what about its systematic arrangement, mode of transmission, about all the things there we studied in a detailed way. In today's session, I'd like to explain in detail the structure of this Entamoeba histolytica. And when you see this Entamoeba histolytica, it has got the three distinctive states in its life cycle. The three distinctive stages are present in the life cycle of this Entamoeba histolytica. Of the three different stages, the first stage is known as trophozoite stage, is the first stage of this Entamoeba histolytica. Whereas the second one is known as the precystic stage. That means this is the stage which falls before the cystic stage. So easily you can guess the third stage is nothing but your cystic stage. So there you can happen to see this Entamoeba histolytica passes through these three different distinct stages in its entire life cycle, which includes trophozoite stage, precystic stage, as well as the cystic stage. Right? I'd like to explain all these stages in a detailed way and diagrammatic way. Right? It will be more clear to you then. See, the first stage, as I said, is known as the trophozoite stage. When you see this trophozoite stage, it is actually a very active stage, it's a motile stage, and actually it is a pathogenic stage also. This is an important point related to this one. It is very active, whereas it is motile. Motile in the sense, this is the stage at which this parasite can move with the help of the pseudopodia that are present on its body. This pseudopodium is only one in its number, helps for the locomotion of movement of this parasite. And meanwhile, it is the feeding stage also. This is the stage at which it feeds on the host tissues, particularly present the tissues in your mucosa and submucosa of your large intestine. And meanwhile, the bacteria present in your large intestine and the red blood cells of the host also. So they do go on feeding on that. Hence it is known as even the feeding stage also. That is one important thing. Thereafter, this is the stage actually which causes disease in us. That is the reason why we call it as here pathogenic stage also. There we studied here in the life cycle of the parasite, it has got the various types of the stages. Like infective stage is one thing, the stage at which it enter into the host body and cause the infection. And the pathogenic stage is one at which in its life cycle it causes the disease in the host body. That particular stage is known as pathogenic stage. Whereas this is actually lives in your wall of your large intestine. Actually it present in the wall here of your large intestine. See this. In the wall of the large intestine, you can see the two important layers are present. One is the submucosa as well as the mucosa. In the first PU, when you study about the human digestive system, there we studied about the anatomy or the histology of your alimentary canal. There we studied about the outermost layer is known as the serosa. Then just beneath to that, you can happen to see the muscularis. Thereafter that followed by actually the submucosa followed by the mucosa. Here I'd like to show you the things. If you feel it is your alimentary canal, the outermost layer is known as serosa. Just underneath to this, there you do have the muscularis. Circular muscles as well as here longitudinal muscles are present in this muscularis. Just followed by this, you do happen to see one more layer. This you call it as here submucosa. Whereas this layer I said here is muscularis. And the innermost layer, which is thrown into many folds, is known as the mucosa. This layer is known as mucosa. Now my point is, this is a parasite. It lives in the wall of your large intestine, particularly in these two layers. that is the submucosal layer as well as the mucosal layer of your intestine, right? That is actually its location. When you see it's actually the body, the parasite body, this parasite body is covered by a thin membrane. A thin membrane is present which covers entire its body. This membrane is actually known as plasma lemma. And at its anterior side, you can happen to see one pseudopodia is also present. See this. Now I would like to give you the structure of this tropozoite. This is the structure of the tropozoite. At its extreme anterior end, you can see a single pseudopodia. This part is pseudopodia. Pseudopodium is a singular word. This pseudopodium is known as lobopodium. Lobopodium. I said that is the reason why I said that tropozoite is actually a motile stage, because it has got a pseudopodium which we call it as the lobopodium, which is one single in its number. When you see the entire here the body is get covered by here a thin membrane which is known as plasma lemma. This is the part is known as plasma lemma. Clear? The entire body is surrounded by this. When you check out internally, the internal portion of this parasite has got cytoplasm. See this one, the cytoplasm is present internally. And when you see this cytoplasm, interesting point, the cytoplasm is distinguished into, see this, outer clear viscous ectoplasm. This is the portion. See this, the cytoplasm is distinguished into the outer ectoplasm is one thing, and whereas the second one is inner endoplasm. When you see the difference between these two, actually the ectoplasm is clear and it is non-granular part, and it is viscous like material. Whereas the endoplasm that you see, which is present internally, that is actually granular part. It is granular part. So whatever here I draw just now is ectoplasm. And as I said here, the internal portion is actually the granular structure, and this granular portion of this parasite is known as endoplasm. This is the part actually, right? This is, we call it as this portion endoplasm. Just like all other cells, even this also has got various types of cell organelles within the cell cytoplasm, and here they do perform the various types of functions. Now let us see what are the cell organelles are present within its body, then what are their functions, right? Right, within these actually the Entamoeba histolytica, you can happen to see the various types of cell organelles. But all the cell organelles present in a typical cell are not present within that. Now let us see what are the cell organelles present within that. The first and foremost important thing, it has got ribosomes within that. Ribosomes are present in this body, in its cell cytoplasm. You can see such a kind of specialized cells. These are known as here ribosomes. Clear? And there in the first PU, when you study about cell biology, there we studied the functions of various types of cell organelles. You know, the ribosomes are the cell organelles which majorly involves in the protein synthesis, right? And along with these ribosomes, it has got the food vacuole also. It's one important thing. And the very interesting point related to this food vacuole, see this, the food vacuole, it has got red blood cells, bacteria, as well as debris of epithelial cells of your mucosa or the submucosa. These are all the things or structures that you can happen to see within that. So this is a food vacuole, the food vacuole with a bacteria. Observe this point clearly. It's a food vacuole with the bacteria. There you can see the another food vacuole also. Some of the food vacuoles have got the red blood cells within them, RBC. This is the typical characteristic feature or the unique characteristic feature of this Entamoeba histolytica. This is the food vacuole with RBC, red blood cells. It is an important point. Along with that, it has got the cellular debris of epithelial cells also. Epithelial cells debris also present within that. Whereas it has got the very prominent characteristic feature of this one is nothing but the nucleus. And this nucleus is chariot in its shape or cartwheel shaped nucleus is present. This is an important thing. Here it is, cartwheel shaped nucleus is present, which is vesicular. Vesicular in the sense at its center, you can see the spacious place is present. So when you see, observe this one, there you can see the nucleus. This is the nucleus. At its center, you can see vesicular part, and it has got a cartwheel shaped structure that you can see clearly in this part. Cartwheel shaped nucleus is very prominent characteristic feature of this parasite Entamoeba histolytica. This part is the nucleus. These are all the various types of the cell organelles present within that. As I said, this is a parasite which doesn't have all the cell organelles. So as of now, I just listed out the 3 cell organelles are present within that. Then what are the cell organelles not present within this? We can see that means cell organelles that are all absent. And the first and foremost important thing is contractile vacuole is absent within that. And along with that, the mitochondrions also absent within this. It's a very important point to be noted. Here it is, mitochondrions are absent. You know very well the important function of the mitochondria within the cell. It takes part in cellular respiration. Since the mitochondrions are absent within that, does this actually the parasite carries out the cellular respiration? Definitely not. So the absence of the mitochondria, it indicates that this is a parasite which is an obligate anaerobic parasite in its nature. And here is a term, you just keep this point in the way, it's obligate anaerobic parasite. What does it mean? Obligate means it is compulsory, mandatory. Anaerobic in the sense absence of oxygen. So this is a parasite which lives in the absence of oxygen only. In the presence of oxygen they cannot survive. So the absence of the mitochondria indicates that this Entamoeba histolytica is obligate anaerobic parasite. One important thing. Whereas within this the endoplasmic reticulum is also absent. There we studied about 2 types of endoplasmic reticulum, like rough and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Even these also absent within this the parasite. And along with that, you can see even the Golgi apparatus or Golgi body also absent within this. So the bit may be framed in such a way that which of the following organelle is present in the here the Entamoeba histolytica. You can get any 3 from this list, 1 from the above mentioned list. Or else which of the following organelle is absent in the Entamoeba histolytica. Or else which characteristic feature of the Entamoeba histolytica indicates that it is an anaerobic, obligate anaerobic parasite. Then absence of mitochondria. All these are the very important bits for your medical entrance examinations. Right, as of now we happen to see various types of cell organelles that are all present within that, and whereas they are all here absent within that also. This is all together actually here gives you the structure of the tropozoite. I said this tropozoite is actually a very active stage, and it is a motile stage, and it is a feeding stage. This is the stage at which you do get a disease, that is amoebiasis. Clear? Right. Let us switch over to the second important part, and before that we can happen to see some more interesting things. So this entamoeba histolytica releases a kind of enzyme which is proteolytic in its nature. That means they do dissolve the proteins. They do act on the proteins and break down the proteins. And name of that enzyme is histolysin. This is an important point that you have to remember. That is the reason why the name entamoeba histolytica name is assigned. In the introduction of this concept, I said already why it is given the name like entamoeba histolytica. Because it releases a kind of enzyme known as histolysin, and which can dissolve the tissues within the mucosa and submucosa of your large intestine. It's a one thing, and thereafter you can see here the food vacuole, as I said, has got erythrocytes within that, and they do have got the fragments of epithelial cells as well as the bacteria. The three are present. I said here it is a food vacuole with a bacteria, food vacuole with a red blood cell or erythrocytes. This is a food vacuole with here the cellular debris of epithelial tissues present in your large intestine. And next to this, when you see this parasite, it is halozoic in its nutrition. It exhibits the type of nutrition is halozoic. What does that mean then? So this is a one which extends the pseudopodia around the food material and engulf in its cell cytoplasm. So the digestion of the food takes place within the cell. So such a kind of nutrition is known as halozoic nutrition. It exhibits. Thereafter, the very important thing, presence of RBC, right? The food vacuole, right, within the food vacuole, and cartwheel shaped nucleus are the very prominent characteristic features of entamoeba histolytica. As I said, this cartwheel shaped nucleus is unique characteristic feature to it. And even when you see these food vacuoles, this has got a red blood cells. These two important characters you can happen to see within this tropozoite stage, right? So this is all about the tropozoite, one of the important stage of this entamoeba histolytica. Now let us switch over to the second important stage, that is a precystic stage. See dear students, now we come to the second stage of the entamoeba histolytica in its life cycle. That second stage is nothing but the precystic stage. When you see this precystic stage, it is actually a non-motile stage and non-feeding stage also. And this is non-pathogenic stage too. Then what does all these means? Actually see this, it's a non-feeding. This is a stage at which it doesn't feed on the host tissues. And this is a stage at which it doesn't cause the disease also in the host. Hence we call it as non-pathogenic stage. When you see this one, it is actually, it lives in the lumen of a large intestine. When you compare with a tropozoite, and this precystic stage is present in its lumen. But where I said here, in case of tropozoite, that is present in the wall of your large intestine, particularly submucosa and mucosa. But whereas this is a one which is present in the lumen of your, means the spacious place of your alimentary canal, right? When you see it is actually the small in the size, spherical or oval in its shape, very small in its structure, the size, either it is spherical in its shape or oval in its shape. That too, it is non-motilic form. The reason, whatever the pseudopodia, we call it as lobopodium, present in the tropozoite stage is disappears at this stage. So that when you see its structure, it gives you such a kind of shape, either oval shape or the spherical in its shape. Just like the tropozoite, here also you can see a outer ectoplasm is present, the cytoplasm I am talking about. Then the entire body is get covered by the plasma lemma, and this part is plasma lemma. Right? Then you can see here just underneath to that ectoplasm. Ectoplasm is present. Internally you can see here the endoplasm is present. This is what? A granular structure, the endoplasm. This is actually a granular part. The granules are present, whereas the ectoplasm doesn't have any granules. So that is known as a granular part. A granular. This is endoplasm. Clear? Right. And it is non-motile. As I said here, the lobopodium is absent within that. When you see this one, it has got the two important parts. This actually the characteristic feature of this precystic stage. At this precystic stage, you can happen to see the glycogen granules are present. A glycogen granule is one thing. Along with that, there you can happen to see chromatoid bars also present. Chromatoid bars. This is one chromatoid bar. This is actually made up of ribonucleoprotein. It is one more important bit. Right? So this is glycoprotein. See, this is actually mentioned. Glycogen granules are present. Chromatoid bars also present. This is actually glycogen granule, whereas this one chromatoid bars are present. But the point is, these are actually made up of ribonucleoproteins. These two acts like a reserved food material within this precystic stage, act like a reserved food material. This is all about the important second stage of your parasite, that is a precystic stage. It is, I repeating once again, is a non-feeding stage or non-pathogenic stage. And actually it is small, spherical and oval in its shape, and it is non-motile. It has got glycogen granules and chromatoid bars. Of course, at its center you can see the nucleus, which is cart shaped or chariot shaped. Here the nucleus is present at its center, which is very common, and it is very important characteristic. Cystic stage is the third stage of the Entamoeba histolytica, and this is the stage actually present in round in the shape, circular or round in the shape. When you see this one, the external body is covered with a thin flexible here plasma lemma, you can happen to see, within which the cytoplasm is present. The cytoplasm is distinguished into outer ectoplasm, inner endoplasm. The very prominent characteristic feature of this one is, it is actually surrounded by a thin, delicate, highly resistant, right, cyst wall is present. A highly resistant cyst wall is present around that. This is what we call is a cyst wall. Clear? The formation of cyst around this parasite is known as encystation. Then why? What is the reason for this cyst wall formation? Actually, during this time, this actually here passes and it encounters many unfavorable conditions. In order to protect itself from the unfavorable conditions, this parasite at this stage particularly forms a highly resistant cyst wall around that. This mechanism of formation of entire cyst wall around its body is known as encystation. And this is the stage at which you can see the glycogen granules are present. right? And along with that, you can happen to see even chromatoid bars also present. Chromatoid bars. Then this is the stage at which you can happen to see the nucleus is also present. It's a very important change takes place within the nucleus. In this nucleus, two divisions will be taken place. Two divisions takes place within the nucleus. So one division which results in the formation of two nuclei. The successive second division results in the formation of 4 nuclei will be formed. This is an important thing. The two successive divisions that takes place within the nucleus which results in the formation of 4 daughter nuclei. At this stage, this parasite is actually known as tetranucleate cyst, right? This is what we call at this stage is known as tetranucleate cyst. This is the stage at which it actually comes out of the infected human being along with their fecal matter, right? Along with the fecal matter, this is the stage at which it comes out. So we call it as tetranucleate cyst. It has got even another name also, a mature cyst. A matured cyst it is. Here the point is, as I said just now, this is the stage at which it comes out of the human body along with the fecal matter. And this is the stage at which it enters into the other host body. So the very important point related to this is this tetranucleate cyst stage or mature stage is known as infective stage to a human being. The infective stage. It is an infective stage of a man. What is that? Tetranucleate cyst or the mature cyst. You know very well about the infective stage. This is the stage of the parasite at which it enters into the host body and causes infections within the host. Point clear? That is known as here tetranucleate cyst or the mature cyst, which is an infective stage to the man. This is all about the third important stage of Entamoeba histolytica. Clear? In the next class, we will see about detailedly the life cycle of this parasite. Okay? Till that time, enjoy the concept. Thank you all.